In association with Get a Tax Rebate, 1895 Sports, Mesa Vienna Aesthetics, CDX Security.
Okay, welcome back to the Oddball Woody Show. It's 2021. This is the first episode. We've been dormant for about 3 or 4 weeks now, and it's time to get back on the road. And great guest that I've got on, someone who I've got a lot of respect for. Done so much in the game of rugby league. He coached internationally, coached at Super League level, coached at Championship level, won Coach of the Year, won championships, won trophies with Widnes. The list is endless. So in terms of the rugby aspect, had a really good career. But, for me, it's what he's doing now is so inspirational because he's part of the Rugby League Curse team, part of the transitions teams for rugby league players, and he's currently just one of the world leaders really in the welfare side at the minute with the elite qualification that he's just won in the level 4 for athlete transition. So, it's a massive thing that you've just got there, and it's Steve McCormack. How are you doing, Steve?
Yeah, good, thanks, Woody. Yeah, nice to see you.
It's really good to have you on, mate. I know we were just having a laugh before you hit record there, but you were one of the first names that we wrote down on a sheet of paper, but it's two episodes. I think we're on about, including when me and Mickey were together, I think we're on about show 26 now, so sorry it took so long, mate.
Oh, you're all right. You're all right. I know there's a few more before me, but no, just thanks for having us on. I've listened to all the shows and they've been great, so a pleasure to come on.
What have you been up to, Steve? Because obviously we're still in a lockdown. We've still got this pandemic going on, and we started this at the beginning of lockdown. So it's always interesting to see what people have been up to and how they've been spending the time.
Yeah, I think it's been a tough time for everybody, this lockdown, would it? Certainly starting last year. I mean, we were busy prior to the lockdown, but Rugby League Curse, that's the charity, and that's the arm of the game that looks after the welfare. Since 2019, Rugby League Curse have been looking after that. So, the RFL and Super League, have entrusted us to do that. So, I think during the lockdown, it's it's a bit of a novelty at first. A lot of people, having a bit of time off work and enjoying bits of time with their family, but as it's got on longer and longer, there's been a lot of players and people around the game just really struggling, whether that be anxiety, whether that be financially, whether that be loss of routine. So my role's pretty broad with that. It's supporting the club, supporting the players, and supporting the player welfare managers, and just being that avenue that if they want to speak to somebody, they can do.
So I imagine where a lot of people are having more time at home with the family and, being furloughed from work, your workload has probably increased because of the circumstances that we're in.
Yeah, you're right, really. And it's something I enjoy, really enjoy it. It's quite a privileged position, that, people pick the phone up and have a chat and want to have a chat. And, they've got some real good player welfare managers at the clubs. Every Super League club's got a full-time player welfare manager, which have done a fantastic job during these lockdowns and continue to do that. Some players prefer to pick a phone up and speak to somebody outside the clubs as well, and that's where we really step in. It's that confidentiality and that independence, really. And obviously, we've got a lot of past players that are getting support and needing support, and it's just the general stakeholders of everybody involved with the game that needs support, and we all need support at times, myself included. Putting myself in that bracket, and as you said, I think since last March we've been really, really busy, but that's what we're here for.
It's interesting though, like obviously being a past player, I know that the struggles when you come away from the game, especially when you spent so long away from it, and it's what's the would you say there's more people at the minute where the ex-rugby players compared to players who are probably using the services of rugby league cares?
It's probably, if you'd asked me that question 12 months ago, I'd have probably said yes. I think now there's a lot of current players using the services as well, who's asking for support. But you mentioned the past players, and I've been guided a lot by yourself as well. I know we speak regular, and some of the ideas that you've got with regards to how we improve our provision, and we need to do that. But there's a lot of past players probably who may have finished, 10 years ago, 5-10 years ago, where this welfare provision wasn't in place then. And so, they finished their career at 30, 35 years of age, and then when they move on, still young, but they maybe lose the purpose, they maybe have financial problems, and that's not all. There's a lot of past players who were doing absolutely fantastic, and that's great to see. But I think, there might be a little bit of a missed generation where, the game and sport as a whole didn't really concentrate on this aspect of, of transition as much as we do now.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a positive what you've just said there. I mean, it can be seen as a negative, or we're speaking to more players, but for me, it's a positive that more players are coming forward and using the services, because we probably have been guilty of, as a sport, rugby league, from my opinion and from what I've seen as a sport, rugby league, sometimes when the service is there, we fail to use them. And then we come away and say, oh, they don't do anything, they don't do this, they don't do that, and there's no help. But in fact, there is help. I'm a big advocate for rugby league cares. And when I speak to, players who say that, there's not much you can do. It's like, speak to rugby league cares. There's so many services that they can offer you. It's such a benefit to a lot of the players or ex-players.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things in that. I think awareness is a key, and that's getting better and better. Getting out to clubs and speaking to people and that reputation. I think the charity's got a pretty good reputation now of that confidentiality and helping people and supporting not only them but the families as well. And the second one is, and I probably don't practice what I preach as well. A lot of this is, probably from a young age, certainly in this sport, we're really taught to get on with it. Crack on, be tough. Be ruthless, just get on with your training. If you're hurt, you don't show it. If you're struggling, you don't show it. You just get on with it, and only the toughest survive. And that's still the case, but slowly but surely the tide's turned a little bit, and it's not embarrassing, or it's not seen as a weakness to start asking for help now. And for me, it's one of the toughest sports in the world, the best sports in the world, and it's just slowly turned a little bit. And our athletes and our players who, some of the toughest people, in sport and in life, are now asking for support. And it's not just players in crisis, Woody. It's players who are doing really well. Some people think you don't speak to rugby leaguers unless you're really struggling. That's not the case. We want to be proactive. We want to have a holistic view of a player's life and the family's life and the partner's life. And we're there for the good things as well as players that do need support in crisis.
Yeah, I mean, speaking to some players, and you can see former players, that is, majority players. The majority of players I speak to are former players, and sometimes you can have that perception of them doing really well, and all of a sudden they say, "I'm struggling here." And sometimes they don't know why they're struggling, because they are doing so well. They've got, the businesses are doing well, they're still financially, they're okay, but they don't know why they're struggling. And sometimes they need guiding into, what it is that they're actually missing, what's creating that void.
Yeah, it might just be offloading somebody, a safe place where they can pick a phone up or go and get a brew with somebody or go and have a walk. Get to gym with somebody, and sometimes people don't know what's wrong. They just don't feel right. They feel as though they've got everything going for them. They're well paid. They're playing well, but sometimes they struggle with aspects of their mental health, and that happens to us all. That happens to us all, and it might just be a matter of that first conversation, and it doesn't matter who that first conversation is with. might be an ex-teammate, it might be a partner, it might be rugby leaguers, it might be the welfare manager, it might be just somebody in the street who they meet. You know, and that's the key is, you know, if you're struggling, you know, don't wait till you rock bottom before you actually start, you know, offloading a little bit. And, you know, we've got an awful lot of people, good people within our sport, that players can speak to. And, you know, my experience of that, it's been a massive benefit.
Yeah, I know there's a big passion for the welfare side from yourself, and we'll go back to it, Steve. But I think what we'll do is just digress a little bit and just talk about your background really in rugby, how you got involved in it, because your dad was a former player for Oldham, Jim McCormack, and you know, so you probably wanted following your father's footsteps in that respect, and you know, there was some drive there from that. So do you want to just touch on how you got involved in rugby league and where your passion for that come from?
Yeah, well, I think like yourself, being a Wiganer, you know, growing up in the, you know, 72, I was born. So I think my first game was 1980-81, you know, watching Wigan against the touring Queensland team. And, you know, my dad played for Wigan and Oldham. And it was always that, you know, I love my football. I always loved my football as well. So as a youngster, I played football. But I'd always used to go watching Wigan with my dad. Brilliant times, brilliant childhood. You know, and I look at that great Wigan side, you know, with Andy Gregory in there and Sean Edwards, Ellery Hanley, really lucky to be able to get to Central Park every other week and travel all around the, you know, the country watching a fantastic team. And there was only one sport for me then. I started playing. It was in middle school. It shows you how long ago it was. It was in middle school then. And I always remember it was my first. It was a lad's dad called Tommy Lucas. And I still see Tommy now and again now, watching his grandsons play for St Jude's, and he was the first coach I had. And I've, you know, I told him for the first time last year how thankful I was that he introduced me to the sport, because that was a volunteer what came in, you know, his own time, been grafting all day, you know, absolutely knackered, but came in and taught the school team. And if it wasn't for somebody like that, I wouldn't have been on this journey that I've been fortunate to be on. You know, this moment in time.
So, from a playing aspect, Steve, where was the sort of the key moment for you when you because you signed as a professional? Where was the key moment for you that stood out around that era?
It was probably I went to the Deanery High School, which was a rugby school. You know, some decent players have come through that, and you know, I went from football to playing rugby, and really enjoyed it. You know, we had a good side then. You know, we had some good coaches. I remember Dennis McHugh was great. We had Jeff Clure, some people, some good people, and some, you know, Jeff had played for Wigan in his time, and you know, fortunate enough to progress and do okay at school, and lucky enough to get selected for England schools, and then, you know, went to Wigan. It was the old academy then called the DDA, District Development Association, and remember training on the old Wigan pitch behind Central Park. You know, what's Tesco now, and brilliant days, absolutely fantastic days, and yeah, good times. You know, and then, you know, my career got cut short pretty quickly with a shoulder injury.
So you must have had. Well, first of all, how did that affect you, Steve, as a young lad, to have aspirations of playing professional rugby, to have that cut short at such a young age? How did that affect you? Did it affect you mentally, that, or?
Massively, yeah, and probably looking back at that, you know, benefit of hindsight as well, in the role I'm in, probably didn't realise the effect it had on me. That all I wanted to ever do was play for Wigan. Whether I was good enough, you know, or not remains to be seen. You know, probably not. You know, it's you have to be really special to play in that Wigan side. But I look back and you know, I was at Wigan, and you know, my shoulder went at 17, age 17, and had a couple of operations. You know, the Wigan consultant did it. I remember it was Mr. Brown went for an operation there, and just couldn't get back. You know, tried to get back. You know, trained really hard. But when I look back now, that it was a tough time. You know, my dad was a great, you know, person of support as he always was. But probably that was it. I didn't have anybody else to lean on, and it probably had a big effect on me. It took away my dream and something that I'd always wanted to do. And it was a bit of a tough time that when I was younger.
So what did you get into after that, Steve? What was like your occupation there? Because obviously you got into coaching at a relatively young age, but was there something in between that before you got to coaching?
There was, believe it or not. I was a health and fitness manager.
Right.
So I got a good job at Robin Park, which is now Wigan's training ground in Pemberton in Wigan, and I'd had some great times there. I was looked after all the GP referrals. When people had come in who was maybe had certain illnesses or injuries, we'd design a program for them just to try and get them back on track. And it was just before, I think, '94, just before the centenary season, and Andy Gregg, who, as I say, one of my heroes, Greg, used to bring the Salford team to do some conditioning there in the indoor track, which I took, and Greg always promised me if they got into Super League again, it'd give me a position. And what a dream come true that was. 1995 Super League season. I was still working at Robin Park then, and they managed to get into Super League, and Greg was true to his word.
So that's how the opportunity came about. So was you not actively seeking sort of to get into that position as a coach really of a rugby team? Is that just how it came about? Luckily, Salford came to Wigan to train, and that's where the opportunity arose. Yeah,
as simple as that really. It was conditioning I was doing, conditioning, and I was doing some coaching down at St Jude's. I think it was under 14s there, so I always enjoyed the coaching. Probably still sulking a little bit that I couldn't play, still a bit miserable and knocking around. But I look back at my community club, St Jude's, and I look at those Tuesday nights it was with Greg bringing all his team down, and that probably kept me going a little bit. I enjoyed my job as a fitness instructor at Robin Park, but just that that enthusiasm and that somebody appreciating what you do, and that being involved in professional sport, that kept me going once a week. That was me. I just looked forward to that, and it was probably going to Salford as helping on the strength and conditioning side. But as soon as I got there, I took over the academy, and luckily we did okay.
So your coaching career obviously started at Salford. Fast forward a little bit, and Greg loses his job, and you get the head coach's role at 28 years of age. Now, I couldn't imagine being a Super League coach at 28 years of age, because it's a young. When you're 28, it feels old, doesn't it? You think you're old when you're 28, but it's only when you get a bit older you think 28's young. It's young, you know what I mean? And it's to take on a Super League side and have a lot of senior players around you who are older than you. That must have been a daunting task, that.
Yeah, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for that. I was probably a decent assistant. John Ivey took over from Andy Gregg for a season, an Australian coach who came over, and he was assistant along with Steve O'Neill, who was fantastic. And then when John got sacked, John Wilkinson, said, I'm going to give you a crack at this. Do you want to take it? And I thought I was ready, but when I look at that squad and being 28, and in that squad were players like Martin Afire, Michael Hancock, absolute legends of the game. Who 12 months ago I was watching them at Central Park, and I took over it. We won a couple of games in that season when I took over, just to stay up. And then, I think it was 11 games in the second season, but it was a tough gig, that. And I probably wish I knew then what I know now. It was wasn't ready for it, but when I look back, it's probably the best thing whatever happened to me. That.
Yeah, I think when people say it was. Probably shouldn't have done it, but there must have been some massive lessons for you learnt there. And obviously, you're 28, you've not had the best start to your coaching career in terms of, losing your job after 10 games. But the success that you had after that, coach of the year, 2 or 3 times, and, You know, you won trophies, you know, with Whitehaven, Widnes, Swinton. So you've obviously not, you're not a bad coach. We all know you're a good coach and we know how to coach. Well, I forgot to mention Scotland as well. But, you know, on that famous win, the New Zealand game, was it 2018, that's it?
2016, yeah, the Four Nations, that was fantastic.
You know, so you can coach, you've got the ability there, but what do you think were the biggest lessons that you learned through that period of coaching at 28?
I just think experience of day-to-day dealing with people, dealing with high-profile people, time management, dealing with the press, you know, dealing with contracts, dealing with losing. I still probably can't. You know, I took over a club and a team that was really struggling, and I'd been for a few years, and you know, we improved a little bit in the first part of the year, and then we took some heavy beatings at Salford, and that was tough. You know, going home and the pressure that not only myself was under, but my family. You know, my wife Rebecca now, and you know, we've only been, you know, my eldest lad now who was there then, but it's a tough spot. Being that head coach, being assistant coach is tough as well. But when you jump up into that head coach's job and it's Super League and the pressure's on, you have to win. It not only puts pressure on you, it puts pressure on everybody around you. You know, and I remember my wife was fantastic then. You know, great level of support. My dad was the same. But I'd just come home and sulk it. I was obsessed with it. So I look at that experience, and you know, when I went to Whitehaven and then I went to Widnes and a few of the other clubs, it was invaluable for me. Tough time when it was there, but when I look back, it just gave me so many probably coping skills and experience to deal with a few of these pressure moments. So
going from that experience, then you go on to Whitehaven, where you had really successful years with Whitehaven. You know, you got to the grand final twice, won Coach of the Year twice with them. You know, there was a force to be reckoned with, you know, back in them days. What's the first thing then? What's the first lesson you take from that Salford experience into Whitehaven? What sort of things you start? Because at this point, you're still relatively young. You're what, 31, 32?
Yeah. That was a big move, that Whitehaven one, would it? I always remember, I think it might have been Andy Gregg, when I spoke to him, he said, you know, leave, even though there's a lot of things went on at Salford, you know, I always remember Greg saying, shake everybody's hand, you know, leave with dignity, thank everybody, and don't take the first job that comes. You know, you might get offered a couple of jobs, or be fortunate enough to offer a couple of jobs, and really think about it. And he was right, Greg. Got offered a couple of jobs, got offered another Super League job. It was an assistant coach, one what I really looked at, you know, closely at doing. And then I got a phone call from Whitehaven. Didn't really know too much about them, and I remember it was absolutely hammering down. You know, and it was a 2-hour journey. Weather was awful, and I was going to pull out, just sulking. And I always remember my dad saying, "Listen, somebody's picked up a phone to speak to you. You know, you need to, you know, give them the thanks. Go up there, see what they've got to say. You know, then make a decision on the back of that." And that's the best advice I had. You know, I went up there. They were unbelievable people up there, were they? You know, the actual place. The way, you know, I was treated, and probably the biggest lesson after the first year was just to make some tough decisions, just to make, you know, be honest in what you do and be transparent in what you do. But to be successful as a head coach, you have to make some tough decisions, and I probably did that after season 1 at Whitehaven. Some outstanding players that have been there for years. You know, if we were going to move on, we maybe had to, you know, to bring some other players in who maybe would have, you know, got the results a bit more. And we did that. Real tough conversations, which I didn't like doing, but it worked, and that was a real good probably learning point for me.
And having them conversations, you know, knowing what Whitehaven's like, and it's always a great. I love Whitehaven and I love Cumbria, to be honest. It's a great place, and to have them tough conversations, especially at a club like Whitehaven, because they're such a close-knit group and they literally live in each other's pockets. So you could be potentially pissing one lad off, but he's also his best mates playing in the same team. So it's a tough call that to make that, and it takes a lot of bottle to do that.
Yeah, I think you're dead right, you know, and, you know, I remember, you know, there's lads who've been there for like 10, 11 years and given that club unbelievable service, you know, working at Sellafield, 12 hours, then coming straight to training, you know, getting battered on a Saturday or Sunday playing for Whitehaven, then going straight to work, you know, at the Sellafield or going back on the farm. Real tough, and I remember making them conversations having those conversations, and, you know, after that, you know, I'd be walking down a street in Kells, and, you know, some of the people would cross over the road and wouldn't want to speak to me. Well, that'd be the families. It's that close knit, and that 100% happened, and I'm thinking, flipping heck, have I done the right decision here? But I was honest in what I did. You know, I probably wasn't top of people's Christmas cards list, you know, during that time, and I didn't enjoy doing it. But from a professional point of view, we had to do that as a club, and I think we went from finishing 10th to, you know, second, and then first the year after, and it was that first year that we made those you know, those adjustments, and we just got everybody buying into the club, you know, the local community, you know, the sponsors, the crowd, and I think you might have played in a quarter final of the cup up there, Woody, live on BBC.
We did.
Cup.
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
it was like 6,000 or 7,000 on that day.
Yeah.
You know, so everybody got behind us. There were tough decisions, tough calls, but, you know, if I had to make them decisions again tomorrow, I'd do exactly the same.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're talking from a rugby league perspective here, but I think just in life in general, I think sometimes we have to have them conversations, and it's hard when there's emotion involved, isn't there? You know, like you said, though, you've got players who have been at a club for like 10, 12 years, and all of a sudden you've got to cut their dreams short because, you know, going back to that, when we played at quarterfinals, there was myself, John Wilshire, Paul Cullen, who came over, and we did the press conference in the week, and we just absolutely like bedlam. They couldn't believe it. One, they love Paul Cullen as well, don't they, up there in Whitehaven?
Absolutely, yeah. And rightly so.
Sorry, mate, go on.
No, and rightly so with Cull. You know, I took over from Cull because he went back to Warrington, and that time and that they were struggling a little bit. And when Cull took over that job, he probably did a lot of the hard work for me. You know, changed the work ethic. Got him working hard, you know, got him believing back in the club, and when Cull went, I probably built on the foundations he'd done. So, you know, that you were treated like superstars when you came up for that press. I remember Cull coming, you know, and yourselves and everybody just couldn't wait for anybody from Warrington to come up that week.
We did an appearance. Well, we did a couple of appearances at school as well, and even, you know, the school kids they were buzzing. It was just, I'm a real pusher, me, because I'd love to see a team in Cumbria. I really want to see. I know we talk about expansion, but for me, I'd love to see a Cumbrian team in Super League. I know it'd be difficult up there because, you know, the lifestyle that they lead, and, you know, you probably won't get a team full of Cumbrians, would you? You know, there's that aspect of it.
No, I probably saw firsthand of that. You know, you mentioned we got to 2 grand finals, and the first time, fantastic game. We played Lee at Widnes, and we got beaten extra time. You know, a fantastic game. And I just look at the week before that game and the week before the year after, when we played Cass, and we were, you know, if we'd have won, we'd have obviously got in Super League. We'd have played our first season, I think, at Carlisle. And we were discussing contracts with all the local lads up there, you know, who were working at Sellafield or on the farms and supporting the family and playing part-time at Whitehaven. And they just didn't want to come full-time. It was too much of a commitment to leave the jobs, you know, a job for life at Sellafield where they're getting really well paid, to, you know, to come in full-time playing for Whitehaven. And those discussions were tough. And I think that probably made a bit of a difference, certainly in the second final against Cass. You know, we won the league that year, had a brilliant year. We beat Cass, and the club won the first trophy. And when they played in the grand final, there wasn't many of those players who was going to play in that final, was going to come full time. And that's not to say that that's why they got beat. But just that hunger, I think that hunger, that Cass had that do or die in that final, really. But yeah, it's a unique environment up in Cumbria. Very special people, very special place, and really hard working, and they love the rugby.
What would you say is your biggest achievement as a coach, then, Steve? What would you? Because obviously there's a lot you've achieved in the game, but I don't know. It might not be a trophy, it might not be a performance, but what do you feel is your biggest achievement, or what's one thing that really stands out for you as a coach that you'd said, you know what, I'm so happy that I took this path and I did what I did?
It's probably got to be Whitehaven. I mean, going to Swinton was brilliant. A club with that tradition that had struggled for years, and we went from a bottom 3 team to winning the competition the year after, which was brilliant. I know he was part of that first spell as well, would he? But probably the Whitehaven experience for me. I think going up there and spending a lot of time away from my family, making the decisions we did, and that second season when we won that trophy, I remember looking at some of the directors' faces that had been watching the club for 50, 60 years. They could never dream of doing anything like that, and the family were there, and just seeing what it meant to the people up there. It was so special that I think we beat Cass at home, and we got presented with the trophy, and it was like we won the World Cup. The whole of Whitehaven was out, and it was brilliant winning. But I think just seeing like what it meant to so many people, for me, that'll stick with me, for a long, long time. It was fantastic days, those.
Still keep in contact with some of Whitehaven guys, Steve?
I do, yeah. I get texts and messages from Peter Smith every day. He's a Roman, Peter.
Yeah.
Brilliant. He was my assistant. Barry Richardson, who was the chairman, I owe so much to Barry. First season was a tough season, but he stuck with us, and we had a couple of good ones after that. But yeah, I speak to him probably weekly. Some of the players up there as well, I still keep in contact. So, and all the fans, I look at the fans and the messages that we get, and my wife Rebecca still keeps in contact with a lot of people up there. Just a brilliant place, and it's nice to see them coming back. They've had a couple of good years now with Charlo. Had some good success, so long may that continue.
At Get a Tax Rebate, we make it easy for you or your business to claim back thousands of pounds in tax. Most people, like Jane and Philip, don't realise that they are owed money from HMRC, so they never claim. All you need to do is fill out a simple form on our website and we'll do the rest. It's that simple. We've also helped business owners claim back millions of pounds in research and development R&D tax credits. So if you're working in a business or own one, contact us today to see if we can help you claim back tax and improve your cash flow. Get a Tax Rebate, your tax refund concierge.
$18.95 Sports and State of Mind, the ultimate lineup.
Macy Vienna Aesthetics, based in Wigan. For all your wrinkle treatments, dermal fillers, lip enhancement, energy boost injections, immune boost injections, please visit us on Facebook or Instagram at Macy Vienna Aesthetics.
CDX Security, proudly supporting Rugby League.
So what made you transition away from coaching, Steve? Because where you are now, you started off in a development role, but with the Wigan Warriors. What was the moment you thought, you know what, I need to step away from coaching, get involved in something different?
I think there was a few things. I think I was lucky that I'd coached at the levels that I wanted to coach at as well. You know, I coached at Super League and International and Championship. I think my dad passing away was a big part of packing coaching in. I don't think that was a coincidence. I think it was 2013 when my dad passed away, and I just found it really tough. You know, tough to get motivated. You know, my dad was a person who, after every game, I'd go in the centre spot of the pitch and give him a call, and he'd say, "Have you done?" And it was just little things like that, real triggers. And I remember, I think I was at Swinton at the time, and I just didn't have the heart for it. You know, just had enough. Had a bit of a tough year, and then luckily it was the World Cup, so I stayed with Scotland, and you know, I went to the All Goals and had a few months working there at the university, and then just had my probably dream job going to Wigan, where they offered me the scholarship role. You know, looking after all the scholarships and some development, and that for me was brilliant. Getting a chance to work, you know, under Sean Wayne and at that club, and then the welfare role came. Mick Farrell left Wigan, and I got offered that position, and I snapped their hands off. You know, so day to day I was working with some great coaches and some fantastic players, and I've loved it ever since.
What do you prefer, Steve? What would you say you get most of the buzz out of? I know it's a difficult question, that, because they're both different roles, but what is your most preferred role?
This one, 100%.
Yeah,
100%. I love coaching, and you couldn't beat that winning feeling and you know, being in and around that changing room, and you know, being in and around the lads and the coaching staff, and that's brilliant. But I think this role, I just think it's a really privileged role. This, and it sounds a bit corny, that, but it's not. I genuinely believe that. You know, I think there's so many buzz parts to this job. It's not the job if you want loads of publicity and you want to speak about what you do every day. It's not the type of job for anybody. That it's you know, you do a lot of work which is behind closed doors, a lot of confidential conversations. But when you see somebody who needs support, get that support and reach out to you, and then see them start flourishing and see them start enjoying life a bit better, that's better than, you know, winning any cup or any league. It's it has a massive impact, not only on the people who you're supporting, but also on the people that are supporting them.
Yeah, for me personally, I think being involved in rugby, you're in a bubble. For me, you're in a bubble, and then when you step away from it, so leaving school, you know, being involved in rugby for 20 years, it was all about winning and losing. And then I think when you step away from that, you sort of realise that it is just a game. Now, I know rugby league as a professional sport is a business, but it is just a game, and the winning and losing, it's part and parcel of it. But I agree with what you're saying there. When you see the bigger picture and the struggles that the lads go through, whether that's going through turmoil with injuries, whether it's personal issues, whatever it be, I think if you can make an impact on that player's life, that must be such a rewarding job to be involved in.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, I look at some of the things that probably, you know, we've discussed about, you know, me growing up and you know, my career and a lot of ups and downs with injuries and getting sacked and all sorts, and the tough times then. And this job's not just about supporting the player. You know, it's supporting the partners and the families and the kids. You know, you want the players to, you know, not to be languishing and struggling. You want them to be flourishing and enjoying life and being good role models. And it's tough that because of the pressure that everybody's under day in, day out. And yeah, I think the enjoyment that we get out of it, it certainly helps me. So, you know, being part of the welfare provision of this, it's a fantastic job, but it helps me as well. You know, it helps me, you know, crack on and enjoy what I'm doing, and it's probably part of my therapy as well.
Yeah, Is there a reason you're so passionate about this role? Has there been like a personal incident yourself, or do you just have that, you know? I know you personally, Stephen, and I've had conversations with you, but when people say Steve McCormack, they always say, great bloke, Steve, do out for you. Do you know what I mean? And that's the reputation that you've got. So I know you're a caring bloke, but what gives you the passion? Do you think it's just built within you? Because look, going back to Swinton when I was injured at Warrington and we did the dual register, that's the first impression that you get from you as a coach is that you care for your players. Because I could see your interactions with the players on the training field, and it were really positive, the way that you had and the demeanour that you had around you.
I think you, same as anything, you grow into it, that Woody. I think you get those, you know, when you're younger. You know, I look at, you know, I keep mentioning my dad, massive influence on me and my dad. You know, my mum died when I was very, very young, so it was just me and my dad. So that work ethic and everything that you'd like to have, I'd like to think my dad installed that, and you know, I laughed every day. It was a great childhood, considering the trauma what we probably had between us. And you know, recently I did a counselling qualification, which is probably the best thing I've done. You know, I look at that counselling qualification, and people say, you know, you just sit on a desk speaking to people with some flowers at the side of you. You know, it's not the case. It's the counselling qualification really went deep into yourself and looking at, you know, me personally and things that may have affected how I feel, thoughts and feelings. And that was brilliant for me. And when the more experience you get in this job and the more qualifications you get and the more networking you do and speaking to people, I think the more you enjoy it. It's not for everybody. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say it's every day is enjoyable, because it's not. You know, we have some real tough conversations, but I think as anything, you grow into the job, and I think as long as you're honest and you're approachable, and you know, I think people see that. People, you know, they're not daft people. They can see whether they can speak to you or not, and that's probably been the biggest thing over the last few years for me, I think.
And I'm not saying anything new really, because it's been publicised, and you know, there is in some respects there's a bit of a pandemic in rugby league, not just rugby league, in sport, with the mental health of a lot of players. It seems like everybody is not everybody, but there's a lot of players who are coming forward, and it's quite interesting sometimes when I speak to players, because I've not a clue that they were struggling, and you know, and I can you know, have a conversation with them and get in touch with them, and you just don't have a clue. And I think the people who watch the game and just, you know, pay the money to sit on the seats and watch the games of rugby probably be a bit eye-opened if they knew the reality of, you know, some of the issues that's going on within the game.
Definitely, and these superstars of our game, you know, these players that play on a Sunday for the championship team, or you know, they're playing on Sky on a Thursday or Friday or Saturday night, they have the same kind of concerns as what anybody else does. You know, if Brickies or anybody, you know, works in Tesco in the shop, you know, we all struggle. You know, people think that they're getting fantastic money, they're playing for Wigan and Leeds and St Helens, and what have they got to worry about? You know, they're kicking a ball for 80 minutes. It's not the case. You know, we've got a lot of players that you know, that get support and need support, and it's just a snapshot of society. I think what we're seeing now is, you know, I think it's fantastic. Players are opening up a little bit more now and coming public about that, and that has a massive impact on the people around them. You know, the role models like yourself. You know, you're a role model for, you know, for people. You know, when you played at Warrington and are now, and that has a massive effect. You know, and I don't think you can underestimate the importance of that and the impact that people can have. You know, high-profile people and players can have on, you know, people watching them.
What do you think's been the biggest eye-opener for you, Steve, in terms of coming into this job and thinking, fuck me, I didn't realise it was this bad, or, you know, this is a major concern what I had no idea about?
I think for me, Woody, it's I'm learning every day learning in this job every day. And Rugby League Curs, I knew bits about him obviously prior to me working for him, but just from the things I've seen, is that no problem is too small or too big for the charity. We have, it might just be picking the phone up, having a chat. It might be being proactive and getting some career advice or some financial advice, or it might be some players who are really, really struggling with some complex things. And, we've had to support a few players like that, and, previously coming in, I thought, we can't do anything with this. What are we going to do here? But we have done. There's people that's maybe initiated a conversation which has got me in front of these players face to face. And this isn't every week, this might be the odd case, but what the charity and what the sport can do and the importance we put on the mental health of our players and past players, I think it's sensational, mate. We've got a rehab clinic down in Liphook near Portsmouth, what Sporting Chance run, which have been brilliant. There's detox programs that players may be accessing who's been struggling with with addiction. There's therapy from Sporting Chance. We've got some minimum standards with our player welfare managers who've got to be counsellor trained. So I think in answer to your question, it's just no problem's too big for the charity. Whatever the players need support in, there's got some good people that can do that within our sport, and that's something I'm really proud of.
Yeah, and another big thing, I know we're speaking a lot about mental health issues and addiction and stuff, but and sort of the negative side, but the other side as well is what the charity help with, and still some players don't realise this, is that there's funding available for qualifications, so players, whether you're a current player or you're an ex-professional player, there's a funding pot there, and potentially you could be granted some funds towards a qualification. And I've used it myself. I've used the charity. It helped me to get through my master's degree back in 2012. It paid half my fees for university. I'm forever grateful for that. Fitzy was our welfare manager at the time, so he was on the ball with everything and told me to put the application in. That's a brilliant side of the charity. So it's not just if you've got an issue personally off the field. There is other things that it offers.
Yeah, definitely. It's a holistic view. You mentioned about the Rugby League Curs grant. So important that they think it's having a career after they finish playing, and it's not the case. That it's having a career alongside playing. It's having two plan A's, not a plan A and a plan B. If you're having a real good time playing, and you've got something outside of the sport, education or a business, and that's not doing great, it balances it out. On the flip side, if you're not playing well, but your business or your education is doing well and your family's doing well, then it balances it out. If you've only got one focus and that's you playing and nothing else, and you're having a tough time or you might get injured, it's tough that, and there's a lot more downs within that. So I think Rugby League Curs, I think we paid nearly £50,000 out last year, for players grants. I think there was over 35 players accessed that educational support, and that's what we're there for. The charity and all the donations that come in and the funding that Rugby League, RFL and Super League do. That goes towards this this pot of education grants, and again, slowly but surely that's increasing. The more players are accessing that and getting career action plans, and that money's there for them. So the more people apply for that and use that for the better, is brilliant for us.
Yeah, I'd love rugby league players to get paid more. I'd love the welfare side to get paid more, and the coaches and everything, because it's a tough way to earn a living. It really is. No matter what aspect you're involved in it, you've got to deal with some serious stuff, and there's a lot of pressures on it. But unfortunately, because we don't get paid the salaries that we feel rugby players deserve, we do have to have a plan, a plan running alongside your rugby career, and it can be hard to get that point across. I think especially to I was quite fortunate. I'm a natural worrier, me. I always think of the worst case scenario. And in some
join the club, buddy. That's not another one here like that.
Well, in some respects, Steve, it served me well in some respects, because although it can hinder, the things that I want to do, that was one of the positives. When I played rugby, I put myself through education every single year. So every single year I was involved in rugby from the year 2002, I was always involved in education, and that was plumbing. It was electrician qualification, personal training, went to university. So I was always doing something, but that was only because I was a worrier. The thing I find hard is speaking to the younger generation now. They want to put all their eggs in one basket and think, I'll just worry about after my rugby when I get to 30. And it's like, well, you may not get to 30, and it's probably a little bit too late to start thinking about it then, because it'd be nice if lads finished their career and they were sort of, hit the floor running, so to speak, if they could, and not starting from scratch.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where our transition programme comes into place now. So, we're looking at a transition, whether that be from scholarship to under-19s academy, whether that be academy to first team, or whether that be first team to transition out the game. So we're looking at probably 28 plus in the age group, maybe 4 to 5 years from retiring, specialist programme. And it's interesting that you mentioned about the finance with it, and that's really important, that, the actual looking after the money. But I do speak to a lot of other clubs and other sports, and I'm really fascinated with that. And you could be a Premier League footballer earning millions and millions of pounds a year, but they still have the same problems at the end of the year. And granted, it might be a little bit easier with the money, but it's about having that purpose. When your career finishes, you might have, £10 in the bank, or you might have £10 million in the bank, but what are you getting up for? Have you got a good job? Have you got a purpose? Have you got a good trusted circle of friends that you can go and speak to? Have you got hobbies? Have you got other interests, away from playing in the sport? So, money's really, really important, and we look to educate the players on that. But a big thing as well is having that purpose, and you'll know yourself, retiring at 30, 32, 33, you're a long time, before you actually retire from in the real world then. So, we want players to thrive when they finish playing, and like I said, if they get to 30, they're lucky, aren't they? This day and age with that. But it's having, and I'll keep mentioning holistic view, but finance, career education, looking after the body, having good relationships, positive relationships, and I think it's the big picture which is really important.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you're right there, and I've seen it myself in terms of other sports who earn a lot more money than rugby league players, and they're still broke at the end of it. They've not, because if you've got £1 million and you spend £1 million, regardless of what you're earning, whether you're a rugby player, if you spend to your means, you're in exactly the same position. And I think money and management is a key one. I mean, from my conversations over the last probably 5 years, speaking to players away, majority of them who've retired from the game, I think money, it plays a part as well. And I think the lifestyle that you lead when you're a rugby player compared to when you stop, I found that a transition which was difficult, and I've spoke to other players that found the same. My big thing is, although I did qualifications and I've just rammed them off there, one of my big things for athletes now is I'd love them to get more involved in work experience, just because then they can try and test things. If I use myself as an example, I went into the coaching at Lee Centurions with a strength and conditioning, thought that was a natural progression from a rugby league player, and absolutely hated the job. It just wasn't for me. I didn't want to be involved in sport. That's not a reflection on anybody at Lee or the Lee club. It's just, that was me personally. I needed to come away from the sport. So I think the experience of going, I want to be a welder when I've finished playing rugby. Well, go and do some work experience and find out if that's exactly what you want to do. And if it's not, you have time now to find something else. and do something else.
That's definitely something we can improve on, I think, as a sport. You know, it's been highlighted. I remember when I was at Wigan, 3 or 4 years ago, if not longer, and Emma Rosewarne was the head of welfare then, and we always had a bit of a KPI about the amount of work experience opportunities the lads had, and it probably wasn't taken seriously, that, and that's massively important. As you said, we've got some great sponsors within the club, in the game, and different variety. You mentioned welding, plumbing, plastering, being an accountant. Even within the club, people think it's just a rugby club, but there's IT specialists, media specialists, S&C, coaching, and then players sometimes think, well, I've not got time to do that. Well, they have, and I think that that opportunity is now going to arise, and hopefully quite a few more of the players will start snapping our hands off with that.
Yeah, and like you said, I could probably be one of those players back in the day saying, well, I don't have time to do it, but you're not asking someone to do it every single day. It might just be a couple of hours once a week or twice a week, but again, going back to college, learning something in college and thinking, well, I enjoy this. It's completely different to actually being hands-on and wanting to actually do that job and being around the people that do it. College is still a bit of a mess around, isn't it? And you're still having a bit of a laugh and the banter and everything with your with your college mates, but that's not realistic in a real workplace when you put under pressure. Is that what you actually want to do?
Yeah, and do you know what, we mentioned COVID right at the beginning of this, and there's never a positive with COVID. It's a horrendous situation for everybody. But players have lived through a little bit of hardship now, unfortunately, and they've seen that. They've took pay cuts, some 50% pay cuts. They've some of them's lost their jobs. People within the clubs have lost their jobs. So players have probably lived through a little bit of hardship now, and from the conversations I'm having with players and coaches and clubs now is, we want to get ourselves sorted because it could happen again. This, and if that happens again, I want to be in a better position to look after myself and my family. So, we've got to capitalise on that and improve our welfare provision as well as a sport, and we're definitely doing that. We're looking at different, blueprints and different policies, and trying to educate everybody within our sport. But I think the players are, maybe see it a little bit different after what's happened in the last 12 months.
And another thing, we spoke about this the other day, but the other thing is as well, it's the one from the players, because rugby league cares, yourself and all the welfare managers can have everything on the table and set everything up for them, but can't make them do it, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, we can't. And the big thing, I know the NRL's big on this, and some of the other sports, is they have a player opt-in to the welfare structure. So there's a responsibility of of the players to opt into, to getting provided all the services. So, an example of that is, we've both been experience of that. You get maybe in our sport over the last couple of years, you say, right, there's a presentation on X, anti-doping or finance, go and sit in there for an hour, and players are thinking, I just want to get home. They've had a tough day training. But I think it's changing that now, and I think that the benefit of players speaking out who've benefited from that process, so mentors, having player mentors going in and speaking to these players, and the players respect the peers because the peers have been through exactly the same, and they've got a smack on the nose every week, when they've been in the trenches with them and played against them, and they trust them. They know, that whatever the mentors and the players have gone through, speaking to them, they're in the same bracket as themselves. So, as an organisation, we're looking at player mentors and peer mentors speaking to the players, and again, that's something that as a sport we've never had, but I think that's going to be massive. Yourself and everybody else getting round to these players and just giving them benefit of your experiences.
Yeah, because I'll not mention the player's name because, but it was a player from the 70s at Warrington. I remember having a conversation with him. I'm going back about 4 years now. And he was talking about the time he retired, and he really struggled to the point where he were taking a lot of Valium and stuff back then, and they were drinking a lot. And so it's not a new issue, is it? Even though players worked full time back then, even players who retired in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, they all struggle. But I think that is a big key that you said there, and it's because of being part of Head of the Game program now, and there's the ex-players involved there, and you listen to their stories. It's inspiring to think, fucking hell, these guys are opening up. They're being honest. They're saying that they've struggled, and now they want to help other players. I just think that's massive for the players that are coming through, because of probably the identification of it. Then speaking to, say, like a counsellor or someone who feels like they've been in your shoes, so to speak.
Definitely, and I'm the same as you. I listen and have a chat with these players who you're talking about, and people who's been involved with the game, and I'm inspired. I learn every day from them. I know we speak regular, and some of the experience you've had have been of great benefit to me, which I'll then take to the players that that I support as well. So, just I said it before, it doesn't matter who the players speak to. Some may want to speak to somebody completely out of the sport, nothing to do with the club, nothing to do with the families. They've never seen him before ever, and that's a safe space for them to go to. Other ones will want to speak to people who they know, or who they've seen play against, and it doesn't matter. I think what we're doing as a sport and getting some good people involved for me is sensational. And it's not all about players getting support and really struggling. We've got some fantastic stories with our players, getting businesses and opening shops, opening coffee shops, and really successful businesses alongside playing. So it's we've got some fantastic stories, as well as some of the lads that may be struggling as well.
Yeah, definitely. That, like you said, you're saying there's success stories, from this. It's rugby league or sports not an all doom and gloom. I'm saying doom and gloom, but because there's a lot of talk about mental health now, it's quite at the forefront. But there's also a lot of success stories. There's a lot of people who we can inspire to be. You look at people like Jamie Peacock now, where he's thriving, and Carl Fitzpatrick at Warrington Wolves, CEO of the club, gone from playing as a professional rugby league player, from welfare to CEO. You know what I mean? What a story that is. There's lots of success stories within our game, and I know Rugby League Curs has had an hand in that.
Definitely, Fitzy's got a lot to answer for with me. He was the last signing I made before I got sacked from Salford. Fitzy, so that was playing. It was his fault. So we'll always have something in common there. But Fitzy's a brilliant example. You look at that, and he's not got that job through luck. He's had to work hard for that, Fitzy. I look at Rads at Wigan. Rads is exactly the same at Wigan, and I look at John Wilkin, opening his coffee shops, and with Flash, and I look at the Tompkins brothers having some businesses outside of sport, and there's so many doing it. There's so many doing really good things, and them speaking to players as well. Them being mentors to players and saying, listen, this is what I've done. When everybody's maybe been resting on a Wednesday on a day off, I've been to college, or I've been doing some work experience, or I've been grafting. And it's hard work that, your body gets put through so much playing, and you do need that recovery, but just that little bit of desire and extra effort can pay massive dividends when you retire.
Yeah, it's finding something you enjoy, isn't it? I think that's the key. I speak to Fitzy quite regular, and he loves his job. He loves his job more than when he played rugby, and that's, to get that is, I think that's what we sort of need to try and find is, where does your passion lie? Because unfortunately, you're not stepping back on a rugby league field. You know, we can't go back in time. So where does your passion lie? Where do you, you know, where's your incentive when you're waking up on a Monday morning? You don't think, "Fuck me, I've got work again," you know, because that's an horrible feeling. And I had that. I've had that working, and that's why now I choose to work for myself. I don't have work Mondays. They call me Bob Geldof. Don't like Mondays. So. But yeah, it's finding it, and it is inspirational to listen to these people, and you know, they're high up in the society, you know, with being a CEO of a club and having your own business, and you know, unfortunately, not all the lads have to aspire to do that, do they? They just need something that they can enjoy doing.
Yeah, definitely, and you know, many occasions when lads finish playing, you know, they've got to go back on the tools and graft. You know, and I think the big thing for me is when you look at a player, and I'll use you for an example. What it is, you know, people will say, "Well, I can't do anything else. I've just played rugby for the last 20 years. You know, I can't do anything. I've got no skills." But if you write down all your attributes on a CV, you know, and you put your CV down there and all the skills you've got, any business anywhere would love to take you on board and the players on board. So if you had some vocational skills or some qualifications alongside that CV, it's a powerful thing, that. And you know, they don't think that. So it's as simple as maybe just getting a CV written, and you know, might be some professional advice that they need to do that. And Rugby League, because you know, has got a great careers coach in doing that. But it's something as simple as that, getting a CV written. And when you look at the attributes you've got and the skills you've got throughout playing, you know, so you might have played rugby since you was 8 years of age, but that resilience and that team working and that work ethic and time management and resilience and everything else that you've had to show as a player is a fantastic, you know, attribute for any business. So, you know, the players probably undersell themselves a little bit as well. You know, they've got massive things that any business would take on board.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some interesting conversations with people where they've said, "You've gone into detail there, haven't you?" And I've looked at something in the workplace and I've gone quite into detail with it, and they've been surprised. And I've said, but what you need to realise is when you're a rugby league player or a rugby league coach, the things you're looking at, you're actually looking to see which player hands off with his right hand, his left hand, who tackles with his left foot forward, his right foot forward, you know, if he can pass left to right, where's his preferred pass to. So the intricacies of building a game plan and getting information for your teammates is so detailed. If you can sort of take that into your workplace as well, you know, that's going to be such a strength for a company to do that.
Yeah, that brilliant example. That, you know, you look at, you know, the attention to detail that a rugby league player has to put themselves through every week, and that's not just once a week, that's 2 or 3 times a week. Analysis of the previous game, you know, previews, their own performances, you know, listening, plus they're getting, you know, the body's taking some stick along the way as well. So concentration wise, it's massive, you know, and that's just, a lot of the players don't realise that, you know, the skills that they've got and, you know, the things that they can take on board to, you know, to a business when they finish playing or alongside playing, you know, it's something that a lot of people within the businesses already won't have. And, you know, it'd be nice if a lot more realise that, to be honest. And that might be something that, you know, we need to educate them a little bit more on as well. You know, it's not just the players' you know, responsibilities, it's us as a game to ensure that they see that as well.
Yeah, and there's a company called who have contacted me a few times. It's Life After Professional Sport. I don't know if you've heard of them, but yeah, and they've contacted me a few times and asked me would I be interested in a couple of roles. A lot of it tends to be recruitment, but apparently, to use their words, is that it's a good transition because one of the skill sets is what a lot of companies find is that the communication side, and they can build relationships and they're trusted as professional athletes. So it goes quite down in the sales and the, you know, the recruitment side of things. So, you know, there is natural progressions away from sport. It's just knowing what you can do. So sorry, Steve, go on.
So no, just saying, like, you know, when yourself or some, you know, rugby player walks into that room, there was a bit of an aura around them. You know, the way they carry themselves as well, and that's half of it. That's a great start for anybody to, you know, to have in the business.
What's the future role now, Steve? What's the future plans for you?
I just want to make the welfare provision better, would I? You know, I think the sport's in a decent spot as far as the provision what's already there, but you know, just looking at what we can do better, you know, because we have to do things better. You know, it's I love my job. I'm lucky to work for Rugby League Curs. You know, it's got some real good staff on there, and you know, given this responsibility, it's a massive responsibility to, you know, to oversee the sports welfare really, and I don't take that for granted. So for me, it's just continuously looking at what we can do better and engaging players. You know, getting the players to engage a bit more with us. CPD for myself, you know, just done this course, this certificate, a wellbeing certificate, which has been brilliant for us. But just continuously improving, you know, that's the key for us. You know, we just can't stand still as a welfare provision and as a sport.
I think you're the ideal candidate for it, Steve. Like I say, you know, the reputation that you've got in the game is you're a great bloke, you know, and you're there to help other people. And like I said, from a personal point of view, speaking to you, you know, you generally care about the players and the sport. So no better person to be in that position, mate. And I wish you all the best. Mate, it's been a great chat. It's been a good insight to what you're doing. I know you're making big plans going forward, and you're making a massive difference as well in people's lives. So, you know, well done on that. And, you know, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Woody, and thanks for all your help as well, mate. You know, it's you know, you're a good level of support for myself and everybody else. So, you know, thanks for having us.
No worries, Steve. I'll send an invoice to you then if I'm helping you that much.
It's a Fitzy. Send it to Fitzy.
Going back to Fitzy, I forgot to mention, Steve. He did say to me that when he says I'm Carl Fitzpatrick, ex-Salford and ex-Ireland international, I was Scotland's nemesis. He says.
Game over.
He does.
Game over. I remember him playing against us. To be honest, it was always a spot player, Fitzy. So always used to stand on wing. We couldn't get at him. But a good player, wasn't he? He was great. But I always remember he played, and I always remember Phil Cantillon played as well. I think a few years back, and I always remember saying that, you know, everybody just like try and stir at Phil Cantillon in the national anthems, put him off. You know, let's put him off here. Let's think, right, we're good. You know, we're having a crack at Phil because he was a good player by then. So every one of them, you know, did that with Phil, and his eyes were going everywhere. And I thought, we've got him here. 6 tries he scored. I think Fitzy played in that game, so it was a lesson learned for me. That
Fitzy would probably say he set them 6 up. But I was with him a couple of weeks ago, and I did a bit of a talk for the Warrington Academy, and Paul Anderson was coaching. He come over talking, and Fitzy was saying, he said, you know, I look at Baloo now, and I think, how did I tackle him? And I said, Carl, you never. He's a fucking fullback. That's right. Oh yeah, I never did that. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Steve, mate. It's appreciated, and no doubt we'll catch up soon, mate, and have a conversation. But thanks for coming on. It is appreciated.
Brilliant. Thanks, Woody.
No worries. Thanks, Steve. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, pal. Enjoyed that.